A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today for this masterclass on rewards and recognition in the hybrid workplace, decoding the right framework. This comes to you from SHRM in partnership with Advantage Club. I'm Nitya Vijay Kumar from the Knowledge and Advisory team at SHRM and your host for today. Audience, please note that this session is coming to you as a webcast and hence we have disabled the audio and video. However, this should not deter you from asking your questions or sharing your thoughts with us through chat. And as your host, I will ensure that I get as many answered by the panel for you. We are living in a world of work where hybrid teams are the norm. Whether your organization is spread across multiple global offices or field-based, there is no set way of working anymore. Where remote employees were once a specific challenge for certain industries, now employees of all roles and experience are working from their spare room, their local coffee shop, co-working spaces, and the back garden. This means the way we approach recognizing great work must also change. Over the past decade, what people value in terms of employee benefit packages has changed, even though the fundamentals of corporate rewards have not. While on one hand, most employers offering the menu of choices like health benefits, pension contributions, health memberships, cash incentives, they seem to have covered it all, right? But on the other hand, we have today's workforce more diverse than ever it used to be. Attitudes towards work is changing. Values towards work is also evolving. And employee preferences are changing. And the speed of that change is only accelerating post-COVID world. Happy to have all of you with us today as we understand from our panel on recognizing the hybrid workplace. What are some of the key steps to boost motivation and engagement among remote workers? How can we foster social connectivity through psychology in a hybrid workplace? And what could possibly be your sweet spot in recognizing work in hybrid workplace? Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Ms. Anupama Sachdeva Singh, VP HR, Concentrix. Anupama comes with more than 15 years of rich and diverse experience in HR, ranging from employee relations to talent management, behavioral training, compensation and benefits, and workforce relations. She has also been recognized at the national level for contribution as an HR professional and has received Young HR Professional Award by Green Tech Foundation, which is promoted by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Joining Anupama is Ms. Smriti Bhatt Deora, co-founder and Chief Operating Officer at Advantage Club. After a successful corporate stint, Smriti decided to board the entrepreneurial bandwagon in 2014. To her credit is the transformation of the Advantage Club from a small startup to a multi-million-dollar venture. She is most excited to talk on anything which is HR, business, sales, tech, startups, or if you simply want to enjoy some Harry Potter trivia, you know where to ping now. So it's such a pleasure to have both of you, Anupama and Smriti, with us today. Great. Anupama, I'm going to start with you. You have been at the helm of people practices at Concentrix for over nearly a decade now. And you've possibly been one of, one of a kind to transition in the, corporate history. You've seen COVID. You've kind of, helped people navigate through that. We would love to hear from you on how this entire rewards and recognition strategy is spanning from a hybrid workplace point of view. Have you really hit the sweet spot yet?
Hey, Nitya, thank you for that warm introduction. Very excited to be partnering with you and with Smriti and to be talking to, a lot of our colleagues today who are joining us for this masterclass. I'd love to share some of my experiences, and I'm very keen to also hear more from, all of our audience that are able to join today. Maybe on that note, we could get us started with a quick poll and then we'll jump on from there. How does that sound?
Absolutely, absolutely. Superb. So let me please invite our audience to log into www.menti.com and use the code 8470 9877. If you could just pick up your mobiles and log into www.menti.com, and you could see that coming up on your screen chat as well. And please use the code 84709877. And please tell us, what's the most meaningful way for you to be recognized? Anupama, Smriti, and I are very keen to hear from you. And we want to know what's the most meaningful way for you to be recognized. As you log on to www.menti.com and use the code 84709877, you will see these options. Thank you so much for your responses. And we see a mixed bag here. Lovely audience. Please share more thoughts. We need more voices here. Superb. So right now, ruling the roost is investment in my growth and development. Anupama and Smriti. Most people seem to value that the most, and then comes to be acknowledged in a public setting. Don't we all love to be at the receiving end of that? Of course, cash reward. To be acknowledged in front of family or loved ones. Someone chooses that option too. All right, investment in my growth and development definitely seems to be a clear winner. A close second is to be acknowledged in public speaking, in a public setting. And then we also have equal votes for cash award and to be trusted with a critical assignment that allows me to make an impact. So yes, please trust me is what many of them are saying. Should I move to the next question? Thank you so much, audience, for your answers here. Also help us understand how effective is your organization's reward and recognition system to engage a hybrid workforce. Now, yes, we heard what you want, how you want to be recognized, but tell me, is your organization aligned? Not effective. Can do much better. Extremely effective. Wow, very nice. Very good is what a few people say, but yeah, much is left to be desired, as almost 21 participants and counting say that their organizations can do much better. And some feel it's quite good, but almost an equal number also feel that it's not effective at all. On that note, I'm going to hand it back to you. Can do much better, continues to rule the roost.
Thanks very much for that, Nitya. Thank you very much. I think the second question was not a surprise. I think almost everyone's always sailing in that boat where we can get much better. And I think especially with the hybrid workforce coming in, we're all still learning and adapting. But I must say that on the first one, I did see some surprises. I did expect variation. I didn't think that would be a top winner, but that was very interesting insight. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate you sharing your views. So let's spend a couple of minutes maybe just to talk about rewards and recognition in a hybrid workplace. Nitya, can you confirm for me if you can see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, and now.
Thanks so much, Nitya. So I'm going to start with a quote from someone I follow very, very closely. I'm a fan of his work, which is Simon Sinek. I'm sure many of you do as well, who basically says when people are financially invested, they want return. But when people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. And at the end of the day, as HR professionals, I think that's what we're all looking forward to be able to create a culture and environment where our people come in every day and they feel motivated to contribute, to be able to deliver their best. So the question is really, how can we design reward and recognition programs that enable them to do that? As we look at rewards, I'm sure this is not a surprise to any of you, especially those that are in the HR and rewards space. The concept of rewards has really evolved. If we were talking maybe 3 decades back, probably compensation, not even benefits, would really have been primary what mattered. From there, it went on to compensation benefits versus today. I think what we just saw in our first slide, right? What people really want, what you and I really want are very, very different things. It's not just compensation or base pay and incentives. It's also not just benefits. It's also a lot more. It's well-being. It's the opportunity to do meaningful work, to have career growth, and also to get recognized. What we've also seen in the last couple of months, the last 18 odd months, as we've become hybrid, as we've moved to work at home, there are three things that are also starting to take center stage a lot more. There is culture. Is it diverse? Is it inclusive? Is it welcoming? Do I really belong here? It's personalization. How is all of this even relevant to me? What does it mean for me? And purpose. How does this link to the bigger picture? What I'm contributing, what does it really mean? How does it link to the bigger picture, and how am I making a difference? These are all questions that we've seen become a lot more meaningful to people than they were ever before. Closer home, over the weekend, as I was thinking about this session, I asked my father, who's a retired banker. So I asked him, okay, Dad, tell me tell me about the time that you were working, and how did reward and recognition programs work? So first he paused and he looked at me for about 30 seconds. He said, what do you mean reward and recognition? Do you mean how we celebrated when we got promoted? I said, no, generally reward and recognition. He said, okay, well, we would celebrate when we got promoted at work. We would celebrate if we got a new job, a new assignment at work, or we would celebrate when we had kids at work. So I said, did you not have any more, rewards and recognition than that? He said, no, we did not. To a generation, when I talked to my 10-year-old son and I asked him the same question, he, by the way, expects to be recognized even for doing homework sometimes. And in between all of that is a workforce that we've got, which is still multiple generations, and therefore looking at rewards and recognition in a very, very different way. What it means to somebody who's probably, let's say, in their 40s is very different from someone who's joining us who's probably in their early 20s. So more and more rewards and recognition, the way that we define it, is just becoming so much more broader. And at the same time, it's becoming so much more personalized to every individual. As we think of rewards and recognition, why is it even important? Some numbers here, which I'm sure are not a surprise to any of you. But nonetheless, I was doing some research to really see in quantifiable terms, how does it really matter? What does it really mean? 92% employees, interestingly, research shows, are more likely to repeat a specific action after receiving recognition for it. And this is not necessarily recognition in the form of big rewards, but it could just be acknowledged. But 92% people are likely to repeat the behavior. 31% increase in productivity of happy employees. And 63% recognized employees tend to stick around. So interesting stats as I was thinking about it. And as I go back to the second question of the poll that we were talking about, how effective do we think we are today in how we recognize people? With so many of us thinking that we're not as effective as we need to be, what is the impact that it could have on some of these numbers? So as we think about, how do we really do recognition that matters? What does it really mean? Honestly, I don't think I will have a formula for success that I will be able to share with you. And I'm sure that you've not come to the session expecting that also. But I thought I will share with you some things that we've seen work and that have worked for us. And this is, of course, evolving. This is from my experience, from what I see in other organizations. This is from my experience of what we get to deliver every day in our own. And this is also from experience of just talking to people, regardless of what they do and where they work, whether they're in a corporate environment or they are working in a school or they're working in an NGO. But a couple of things that I tend to hear consistently, I've tried to summarize them in broad level points. So the first one is around making recognition personalized and meaningful. What really appeals, like we saw again in our first question, that for someone, recognition really means that we want to get an opportunity to be challenged. We want to be trusted with something that truly matters. Whereas to someone else, a priority could be that I want to be able to be recognized in front of people that matter to me. So what we've been trying to do, and of course, we're all some distance from that, is how do we bring that to life? Couple of things that we did this year that we found were helpful. So beginning of the year, we all went through COVID. It was not an easy time for anyone. And when we did, within our organization, we created a small team. This team was really the responsible for, we created a helpline. It was a 24/7 helpline. And this team was responsible for either manning the helpline or being a part of the team that was at the back end, that was working round the clock to be able to get people access to hospitals, oxygen cylinders, help them with medicines, and really go all out and help those in need. At the end, when we got over wave 2, it was very, very important to us that we went out and we recognized each one of them and just say thank you. But what we didn't want to do was, do the customary thing of maybe giving them, a standard trophy and so on and so forth. So we decided to surprise many of them by sending personalized hampers with a thank you plaque with their name delivered to their home with their families as a surprise to them. And for most people that got it, they were truly surprised. We had a very small group that we could bring into the office to facilitate, and for everyone else, we took it home. What else did we do? There is a segment of people, we talked about it. There are many, many people who value being talked about or who value being recognized with their family. So a very interesting program that we used to do prior to COVID is, for our long service recognition, once a year for a certain tenure, we would get everybody who was completing that tenure together, along with their family members in a ceremony, and acknowledge them, appreciate them, and recognize them for their long service. Unfortunately, with COVID coming in, we had to stop that. But we didn't want to, we didn't want to let go of the essence of what we were doing. So as we moved to doing this on Zoom, one, we invited their families. We invited them to be part of the ceremony with us, even if it was online. And then we also had them make videos that we played during the ceremony. And it was beautiful, absolutely, to see how many families and the emotional messages and how it felt the families were really connected, with us as an organization, just as much as our staff were. So that's another program that really worked for us from a personalization standpoint. We've, of course, got online recognition, working with Smriti and her team. So one of the things that we have available is recognition badges. So all of our staff, the more younger ones that are, very adept at using a lot of technology, that probably, message more than they talk, prefer to do a lot online. So we have a whole host of recognition badges that our staff can use. And the last one that we sort of tried along a little bit this year. So we do, gratitude campaigns almost every year. We do thank you campaigns in the office where we ask people to walk up to each other, give them thank you cards, really shake their hand and talk about, what have they done and how has it helped the other person. So that's something that we've been doing every year. This year, as we were thinking about it, our thought was that in the last 18 months, people have been working from home a lot. And that means in many cases that we've disrupted the lives of people around us. There are children who have, who have to play. There are spouses who have work to do. There are parents. Many a times when we're working from home, we've made our space in that home to be able to work. And in the process, sometimes we've dislocated others. As we went through COVID, our families have really pitched in and really helped us get to where we are. So we decided to do thank you campaigns in a slightly different way. So while we did our attitude of gratitude, we also said that, okay, let's run special weeks where we could have people say thank you to their partners, where we could have people say thank you to their parents. And then we did, thank you to your friends. So different, but we tried to make it more meaningful in the context of what we're doing. In the hybrid workforce, our friends, our families have had a much bigger role to play in our success. And how can we make sure that our recognition extends not just to our staff, but also to their families? So our goal has been, first and foremost, to make recognition meaningful and personalized. The second one being around technology. I think this is one which is spoken quite a lot about in, across the board when we talk about making recognition programs effective. There's absolutely no doubt that technology has been absolutely instrumental in helping us take, recognition programs to a different level altogether. So we've partnered with Smriti and her team quite a few years ago, and we've actually been using the recognition platform for quite some time. But things have there as well, I feel, have changed a little bit over the last 2 years. As we think about 2019 and earlier, we were all meeting each other face to face. There were bonds that we were creating with each other. And technology was something that was just helping us enable that a little bit more. It was helping us accelerate what really lies at the core, which is human connections, which we were able to build when we met with each other. But come COVID, a lot of that has gone away. So from a technology perspective, really our challenge has been to make sure, how do we leverage technology, but do it in a way that truly allows us to connect to one another. This has been an interesting one. We've had a couple of cases where we just did, a random dipstick talking to a couple of staff and really asked them, hey, this is instance A. You got you got rewarded with X number of reward points. How did you feel about it? And we talked to a couple of different people just asking. And, regardless of the number of reward points that people got or the category that they were being recognized for, truly the place where it made a difference, more than the flexibility that they got with the reward points, was really where somebody reached out, where they had a meaningful conversations, thanked them, not just for the work that they did one-on-one, but they also made it a point to thank them, let's say in a team call, in a Zoom setting, in a team call, but ask them and thank them in front of people that mattered to them, or where we called out and gave them public recognition. In other words, in other cases where somebody could have got just as many reward points, if it wasn't necessarily accompanied by a similar situation where they were appreciated, it didn't necessarily always have the same impact. So technology has definitely been a huge enabler, but it's an enabler to really strengthen the human connections that we have. And how we've done that in some ways is, of course, we leverage an online reward portals, and it allows us to do multiple things. So we've got reward points. We also have partner privileges. So, being an employee, you can get discounts. Plus, you've got badges that you can leverage for online recognition. And we've even got things like classifieds where you could, sort of share your goods. Similarly, we thought about how do we get people together. So again, online theme-based events, just trying to add some fun into events by having theme days, by having specific backgrounds. And you can see one of our teams there with all blue and purple, to the best that you can without really being there with each other. How can you make it feel like home when you're on Zoom? So that's something that we've experimented with a little bit. Something else that we started very, very recently that we tried with 1 or 2 events is, prior to COVID, we would actually have cases where, you would have like small ceremonies, invite people, have a stage set up and give them an award on stage. In the absence of being able to do that, we've tried to create a virtual stage, have maybe 3 or 4 facilitators be there in the office. What you're seeing in the third screen over there has been set up with like a green room, looking like a big actual screen, big actual stage. And we've tried to facilitate people in a similar setting. It's definitely not close to what it's going to be when people are able to get back and we can do this in real time. But till then, we thought we'd just give it a try from an online standpoint. And then the last one, of course, where we've leveraged technology extensively is to see if we can run things like, gratitude campaigns or other campaigns to be able to recognize people. A simple thank you goes a very long way. We ran a campaign very recently and we had overwhelming response. We had more people participating, at least 3x more of what we expected. And in a span of about 3 weeks, we had 120,000 thank yous that were being exchanged. So there's absolutely no doubt that having the technology in place is absolutely essential to be able to engage a hybrid workforce, but it's always at the core of making sure that it can make human connections. So that's something that we've loved and we're continuing to focus on as we go forward. And the other thing that we've always focused on, actually, it's not necessarily hybrid, and it's not in the last 18, 19 months, but definitely looking beyond, recognition programs that look beyond performance, recognizing contribution to culture, to teamwork, and to values. Very interesting program there that, as an organization we've done when we were as small as 10,000 people. and we continue to do when we're more than 200,000 across the world, is a program called Unsung Heroes. Very, very simple program. Periodically we have calls where we have leaders as senior as our CEO that come and address a set of leaders. And what we try and do is we take some of our frontline contributors and be able to get them and just recognize them, just our very entry level staff for the exceptional work that they've done. Just get them onto the call where you have, let's say, 100 200 leaders from across the country, where we recognize and appreciate what they do. For our leaders and staff that help us drive culture, we have culture ambassadors, and we also have culture champions. So it's a big way for us to recognize people, is the alignment to our culture. In the last 18 months, the other thing that's come out so prominently is well-being of people, whether it's social, mental, emotional, physical. That's been a very, very big part of things that have got impacted as far as health is concerned. So for us, making well-being a critical piece of recognition is also something that's become very important. Sometimes it's about taking a pause and really acknowledging, hey, we understand that everything that's been going on has had its impact. We want to be there, we want to help, and we want to recognize that. Across the organization, we promote this in 2-3 different ways, right? One, of course, we encourage well-being, and we incentivize and we recognize people that are willing to invest in their well-being, whether it's emotional, mental, physical. And we also recognize managers that drive a culture of well-being within their team, that are encouraging their team members to really go out and do something for their well-being. And the other area where we're focusing quite a bit is inclusion. I think just as we think about the last 18 months or so, right? As we went into the lockdown and as people moved to work at home, there's a significant advantage that we had. It was a set of people who had worked together in the physical world for a very long time, for many of them. And what that allowed them to do was build bond and connections that they could take when they moved to work at home. Today, as we're looking, almost 2 years down the line, across the world, there are millions of people that probably have never met each other, but they work on teams, together. They have shared goals, they have shared purpose, and yet they've never had the opportunity to have water cooler conversations. They've really never had the opportunity to get to know each other well beyond the task which is at hand. So inclusion and how we drive that becomes absolutely imperative. How do we make sure, how do we get managers to make sure that when they're talking to their teams and you're talking to 5 people or you've got 5 people on the call, how do you really make sure that you're going out to give everybody an opportunity to contribute? Are you noticing someone who's a little shy and helping them come up and contribute? Are you noticing someone may want to say something, but they've not had the opportunity to do that? So how do we really make sure that in this hybrid world, we're able to include and hear everyone? So these are things that are starting to emerge as an extremely important part of our recognition programs. So on well-being as an example, there are competitions that we're doing, team-based individual, around encouraging well-being and also encouraging inclusion. And we're recognizing managers and leaders who are driving these within their team. And the last thing that, that definitely I've seen working and I hear more and more from people is really celebrating moments that matter. It could be small things. Recognition doesn't always have to be defined by big programs, big awards, big ceremonies, big whoas, but it is about recognizing when someone contributes in that minute to something meaningful and be able to tell them that in time. Because recognition delayed, of course, is recognition denied. So more and more, we're talking about how do we really do spot awards? How do we just say a simple thank you in that moment in a bigger group to make sure that someone's effort is acknowledged? And how do we really take small things and celebrate the small things? Because if there's one thing that we've probably learned over the last 18 months is that sometimes it's the small things that matter the most. And it's the small things when you put them together that really become really gigantic. So how do we redefine recognition in a way that really allows us to focus on moments that matter. So those 4 or 5 things are things, at least that I've seen in the last few years, that are really shaping recognition, especially in a hybrid workforce. I'm sure that's going to continue to evolve. And I'd love to hear back from some of you on what are things that you're seeing that are working. With that, Nitya, I'm happy to hand it back to you or open it for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anupama. And I completely echo your thoughts, Kenneth Wheeler. It was indeed a very well structured and very well explained by Anupama. Thank you so much once again. Audience, we are again very keen to hear from you. Please keep sharing your thoughts here. We do have a few questions which I will take it up at the right time. Coming back to you, Anupama, I think you touched upon 3 things which kind of form the crux. One is definitely empathy, putting people, at the heart of everything that you design. And second is creating an environment where people are able to do that freely. And third and most important thing, I think it was an attitude of wanting to see that, oneness, especially, creation of that stage and, putting people there and trying to recreate that as, the similar kind of experience as much as possible. As you rightly said, so many people have gone through so much in the last 2 years that it's unfathomable for a few, but really very interesting to hear your journey in the rewards recognition space. Thank you so much for sharing that. Smriti, I'm going to turn to you, and I know that you work with a lot of organizations like Anupama's and different industries. So while this entire space of compensation and benefits, we know that it definitely needs to evolve, right? I mean, if you need to survive, you need to evolve. So do you think going forward, all these compensation, benefits, recognition, rewards, etc., should be skill-based, or should it be, traditionally performance-based, as it always has been? Because end of day, what really matters is the performance. So what is your take on it? Should it be skill-based, or it rather be performance-based?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nitya, first of all, for inviting me here. So you're right. The pandemic kind of brought upon very different thought processes among organizations and how they need to treat their employees. While traditionally performance-based rewards were more common, and I don't see them going away anywhere soon, because like you said, right, performance, of course, is one of the most important factors while evaluating any employee in any organization. The pandemic also kind of gave birth to a more real-time rewarding scenario where, there were modules created where you could do instant gratification by leaders to their teams. With remote working becoming increasingly normal, what still poses as a challenge is to how do you keep people away from how to keep people who are away from office, who are away from like face-to-face office cultures, how do you keep them motivated and how do you keep them excited about their work? So it's not just about skill, or it's not just about performance. In my opinion, I feel it's more about keeping people engaged and excited for the work which they do, which is where quick gratification makes a difference. So the future is probably gonna be kind of a hybrid setup in which, while of course performance rewards and are not going anywhere, skill-based rewards plus instant gratification plus what we call in the industry spot recognition, those are the things which are also going to be very important, especially when you're engaging a remote workforce where they're not having like a face-to-face interaction with each other.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think that is an interesting point made by Harshit, who says that we need to define another dimension of appreciation. R&Rs are typically attached to targets, accomplishments. So appreciating the efforts that go into it and intentions also matter. And that's precisely what Anupama also covered, right? I mean, even really recognizing and appreciating the smallest of gestures, smallest of effort, and as you rightly said, the intention behind the effort. There's also an interesting concept called innovative parenting, which is about how much of leeway do organizations offer to the employees and allow them to fail? Everyone is behind this race of wanting to succeed. Of course, that is a larger goal. But do you really provide enough room for your people to make an attempt and fail? And that can be a huge source of learning as well. And that's been interestingly coined as innovative parenting, which means innovation parenting, which means that in order to foster innovation, you need to treat that as a parent and allow your child to fail to see success. Lovely. Some more interesting thoughts coming our way. Vinay is saying that Vinay has a question which I will take up, and Sharon feels that attitude of gratitude, peer recognition are some of the things that can go a long way. Absolutely agree with you, Sharon, on that. All right, we spoke about reward personalization, Anupama, and you also explained on what are the different ways that it can be done. But we are also talking about organization doing this at scale. How do organizations, I mean, that thought is very overwhelming for me, if I have to look at it from a design and a framework perspective on how do I go about really personalizing this entire reward thing. So where do you draw the line? What are some of the key facets of this framework when it comes to reward personalization?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you're looking at a large organization, how do you still make sure that you still remain true to the core, right? And I think one of the classic examples for us was the Unsung Heroes program that I talked about. We were doing this even when we were an organization of 10,000. So today, even when we're more than 200,000, we make it a point to make sure that we're looking at our frontline heroes and bring them back. So how do we really make sure that we're able to do this at scale? I would say in a two-tier approach, we will have formal and structured ways to hear back from our employees about what does recognition really mean to them. Is it compensation? Is it benefits? Is it career development opportunities? So on and so forth. We will then pick up on the ideas and areas which really matter to our people from a structure standpoint when we're defining what our structure will look like. So let's say our people have defined that these are 5 areas that matter most to us. We'll go ahead and make sure that our overall framework is set up in such a way that it allows, that there is ways of recognizing people in all 5 of those areas. Then we'll go into extensive communication around it to say, this is what we've heard back from our people. This is what we're enabling as a structure. And then we rely very, very heavily on our managers and leaders, because typically the first point of interaction for any employee is their manager. They experience the organization through their manager and through their immediate peers. So what we do is to make sure that from a structural standpoint, we have the right structure and resources set up that will enable our managers to pick and choose what matters to people in their team and be able to recognize that. Frequently you will have a manager, let's say, who's leading about 15 people. And for one person in their team, career development might matter. So we have a forum that's set up where he can come and talk about career development for his high performers and people who are ready to take on bigger challenges. For a different person, compensation matters. So what they'll do is always to make sure that when we have a framework set up for, let's say, incentives, we provide them enough communication and flexibility to know, hey, for somebody in your team where compensation matters, these are the various things that you can do. So we try and put the structure and resources in place. For our managers, we do extensive education so that they feel enabled to be able to reward their people in the right way.
Sure, that's very powerful, and all those managers who are listening in, you're actually in a very, very powerful position to actually influence both levels of stakeholders. I mean, you have a team. If you please, your life is going to get easier, and if you really have to fight for the rights of your team members. In fact, this is the time that you should bring it up to your senior leadership, because it really shows that you care, and I'm sure your team members will be really appreciative of those efforts, irrespective of the outcome. So thank you, Anupama, for bringing that. Smriti, in this entire framework of rewards and recognition, technology is one piece that is going to be undeniably play a huge part. So what, according to you and in your experience, how is technology supporting, or how could it support in future also as we go along?
Sure. So basically, I always say that, digitization is the future of HR tech. I mean, especially for hybrid teams. If you were to run a recognition program with Excel sheets, or if you were to do that manually, it would be an operational nightmare. Plus, to add to it, analytics, reporting, it's impossible to do it manually. Communicating the rewarding is also difficult. I mean, you've given a reward to an employee, you also want to showcase that rewarding to other employees in the organization. It's difficult to do that without a digital platform or a digital way of doing it. I mean, you can send emails, but if I get emails for every member in my team getting awarded, I just filter them out in a folder. So it's important to also have a place where people can go and kind of voluntarily look at the recognitions to showcase. We talk about Hall of Fames, and all of those things can be digitized in the right manner. Also, peer appreciations. I mean, in a remote or a hybrid work setup, you can't just go and give each other physical thank you cards. So you can create different variations of thank you cards as well in a digital format. It need not be just a thank you card. It could be like a kudos or a you're an inspiration. You can have like multiple cards which can be created, and it also adds a flavor of different types of recognitions in the same portal. Plus, we also spoke about digitization in terms of cash awards, right? So if you're giving a cash award to an employee, it doesn't mean much because, of course, cash is important to people, but it doesn't add to an experience along with that. So if you turn it into, say, a reward point structure where people can pick and choose the gift or the redemption of their choice, all of those things are only possible via technology.
Absolutely, completely with you. And I think drawing inference from your point, also what matters is while there are a lot of social platforms where you can do that, and we see that increasingly on LinkedIn, etc. But nothing like, doing that in a space which matters most to you, getting recognized in front of your peers, in front of your boss, in a space that really, really matters to you. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Let me come to you, Anupama. So what are the kind of trends that you see emerging in this rewards and recognition space at top levels, at senior levels?
So I think one is clearly a lot more emphasis on culture. So somebody who's it's a key ambassador of driving the organization's culture and being able to shape how the organization is going and really being able to demonstrate the organization's culture. I think that is very, very, that's coming very, very clearly. Second is, of course, long-term interest, so to speak, or long-term commitment to the organization. How are our more senior leaders committed to the long-term success of the organization? And I think that's one thing that's emerging across multiple organizations, that more and more senior leadership, especially as you look at startups as an example, right? Is it really cash, or is it really, when you look at rewards, what are we really looking for? Are we looking for commitment from leaders that are going to help take the organization to the next level? So I think if I have to think of the top two, and these would really be it: the culture and long-term interest and stake in the organization's success.
Very clearly. What are your thoughts, Smriti? How do you see this top leadership space evolving?
Yeah, so I'm very much in line to what Anupama said. I mean, recognition, I feel, is not just like an HR team's role, right? It is actually something where leaders need to kind of walk their talk. It's not something just assume that it will work on its own. So there was also a question in chat actually that, we talk about launching recognition programs, but they don't work. So how do you actually make that work in the right manner? It has to come from the top leadership. And in most of the organizations where we work with, where we've seen successful recognition programs is where there is a lot of involvement from the leaders, from the managers themselves. While of course the HR is the team who executes it, but at the end of the day, there has to be enough involvement from the leadership. Otherwise, it kind of becomes just another program which you've launched, and it doesn't work in the right manner.
Absolutely. Well said, Smriti. We do see a few raised hands. It will be great if you can share your questions or your inputs on chat, please. This is coming as a webcast and you will not be able to unmute yourself. But we are very keen to hear from you on the chat. Also, we are very keen to hear from you on a few more questions that we have on Mentimeter. So if I may just please request you to log on to www.menti.com and use the code 84709877. Please pick up your mobiles and go to www.menti.com and use the code 84709877 and tell us, why do some reward strategies not succeed? What's the mystery? Most organizations seem to have covered it all, but why don't some reward strategies not succeed? You could go to www.menti.com and use the code 84709877. All right, we hear some points very pertinent. These are irrelevant to employees. They're not always inclusive. Leadership support is lacking, something Smriti and Anupama, both of you touched upon. Lack of knowledge that what really ticks. So active listening is very, very important to make your reward strategy work. Diluting the actual. Bias, yes, possibly. Any top of the mind thoughts as you see this, Anupama and Smriti?
No surprises, Nitya, I would say. Almost everything that's coming in are very common problems. You know, communication as an example, I saw a question around that, right? It can be a make or break. You can put the best programs in place, but if there isn't effective communication around it, if people haven't really understood it, if they're not being able to use it, then all the efforts sort of go in vain. Communication is one I saw on the question bank as well. And it's probably among the most common problems that we face as organizations.
Right. So very clearly to understand what the participants or what the employees want. So active listening there from the teams that formulate these strategies, and effective communication also, what that really means, what it could mean to each of the employees. I think that's very critical. All right, moving on to the next question. What do you think are non-negotiables in a reward strategy? As you think of reward strategy, what do you think are the non-negotiables there? This is one must-have aspect of a reward strategy. What do you think some of the top things that come out? Smriti, as we wait for the audience to respond, very eager to hear from you. What do you think are some of the non-negotiables that you've been hearing?
I think the first most important thing is the ease of use, because if you don't have a setup in which people are not understanding how to actually reward their, say managers don't know how to reward their employees, or employees don't know how to actually redeem the rewards, it's a non-negotiable. It needs to be simple, it needs to be transparent. Secondly, it needs to be aligned to the objectives of the organization. You shouldn't run a reward program just for the sake of running a reward program. It needs to be very clear in terms of why are you running it, what are the objectives you want to pull out of it, and are they actually synonymous with your cultural values, with the overall organizational setup? So I think those are two major non-negotiables.
Thank you, Smriti. And we do see some very interesting aspects. I did see gamification somewhere as many of these word cloud popped up. So what I'm essentially trying to understand is there are employees are looking for experience everywhere, just like we customers do. You know, when we are trying to buy something, say we go to an Amazon or some other app, it kind of intuitively reads, right? And every time there is a newer experience that we seek out. So employees are seeking out newer experiences, what I can see from that word gamification. Interesting. So most of these aspects have been captured, you know, appreciation, cash, walk the talk, kudos, thank you. So thank you so much, audience, for sharing that with us. And with that, I think we will move to take some questions from the audience. Let me bring up Radhika's question, who asks us on how do we ensure that managers have understood the R&R framework correctly, in spite of communicating the same through road shows, through which will help to reward their team appropriately. How do we ensure that, managers who have such a critical role to play are actually well equipped and empowered to do that? So Anupama, would you want to take a...
Or absolutely. So I think communicate, and over communicate is definitely something that we need to do all the time. We try and do a couple of things sometimes if they're helpful, is within teams and within groups. We try and create champions that are, sort of our torchbearers for multiple important programs. So in every large team, you could have one person who's really the SME on R&R, and they understand our programs well. And then we rely on them as the SMEs from time to time, one, to do that communication. And then every time they're in those conversations to sort of bring that up, to, answer questions, dispel myths. And sometimes when managers forget what our framework is, just to remind them, hey, do you know you can also do this? So that's something that I've seen, definitely help. Second is if we can try and make self-service material available, easily accessible through intranet or any other forum, wherein, and the idea is always to try and do it in like 1 or 2 pages in the form of infographics or something. Unfortunately, when you put a 5-page policy in front of a manager, he's going to say, it's just easier, let me pick up the phone and call HR. Yeah. So we try and do it in, shorter, crisp bites of things that they need to know. So easily accessible communication, and definitely creating champions that could be, torchbearers for our program and really be the specialists that people can go to as our extended arms.
Super. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to take the next question from Anusha and direct this to Smriti. Anusha wants to understand what could be the top challenges and essentials of an unbiased reward and recognition system. I think this is where technology really plays a part. It's so objective. Over to you, Smriti.
Yeah, and I totally agree to that. I mean, actually, I hear this a lot, in which when people are creating their recognition policies, one of the major top concerns which comes through is how do we ensure that the same manager is not giving like biased rewards to the same set of employees, because then it kind of creates a negative impact on people who are not getting rewarded. So there are 2-3 ways you can actually handle that problem. One is, of course, if you have given the managers an autonomy to reward employees on their own. So suppose you've given a budget with the manager, and then the manager has an option to award whoever they want to award. Then you'll have to kind of do like maybe a monthly or a quarterly cadence through reporting, and understand that, okay, there aren't such patterns emerging in a regular manner. If you don't want to give that autonomy, you can also restrict it on certain levels. Like one restriction level could be through a technology platform itself. You could restrict the number of times an award can be given to a particular employee by a certain manager in a certain quarter. The amount can also be kind of ranged in that particular manner. You could also, go a step further. I've seen certain companies do that, in which they create maker-checker models. So there is a nomination set up, and then there are approvers, and only when they approve, it slows down the process a little bit. But that's also another approach. I've seen some companies do it. Again, it depends, like one size doesn't fit all. So if you have like a really large organization with huge number of managers, then of course getting it stuck on approvals is not the right way. Then you could take the first strategy where you restrict the amount or you restrict the number of times. But if your organization is smaller, you can also go with the other strategy as well.
Thank you, Smriti. Very, very practical points there. Sheila shares that, we should also incorporate our people's opinion about the recognition and leadership should take part in the program. At the end, it should be tied to organizational goals. I think that's exactly what we've been, we completely agree, Sheila. It's about active listening, and leadership should be a part of it to ensure that, it is a win-win proposition. All right. Interesting question from Nandita. How do you measure that R&R programs are paying off? So what is the metrics really? If I have to talk about top 2-3 metrics that you can measure your R&R on, Anupama, Smriti, both of you, maybe 1 or 2 top metrics that you can think about.
So there's definitely, measures like attrition, repeat, and consistent high performance. outcomes that you can definitely look at. And these are things that we generally tend to. But I think we're some a little bit distance away from really being able to measure the true effectiveness on the motivation and to be able to put that on a scale that, people who are consistently, let's say, recognize, can you truly measure motivation? I think there is scope there for sure. But certainly things like, productivity, performance, feedback, and how they engage their feeling, how well they're progressing. These are things that we definitely can.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think taking a page out of Concentrix's book as well. I mean, what they do really well is they do something called as an ESAT score, which they do like on a very regular basis. It's an employee satisfaction score where they do like regular surveys and they try to understand that whatever employee programs have been created, are they actually working in the right direction? So that's one thing I found really cool about what they're doing as an organization. What I would like to add to it is another thing which I've seen in some organizations is they also try to incorporate this feedback in their exit interviews, because typically when an employee is working in an organization, they will always say nice things in the feedbacks, right? But in your exit interviews where the real meat comes out, that did that program work for you and what did not work? If you incorporate it there, it would be really helpful.
Sure. Thank you, Smriti. And I think we have an interesting question for you. How do you ensure adoption of your R&R tech platform in today's time when you have more than 10 different HR apps that are fighting for employee attention? So practical, so valid. Over to you, Smriti.
So that's also one of the things which we've tried to tackle as a problem using our platform is how to drive higher engagement among the employees. So if you have 10 different programs, if you have a different recognition program, you have a different rewarding program, you have a different survey program, you have a different communication app, different things for classifieds and hobby clubs and stuff like that, it becomes really messy for an individual to go to like 20 places. Are you this? Are you that? Are you app A, app B, app C? So it's important to also kind of club them all together in a unified platform. And that's what we've also tried to tackle as a problem, in which we've created a single place where all of your employee engagement initiatives will come in one single platform. Of course, we also integrate with like other platforms. I mean, if somebody's running Yammer, we'll integrate with them. So your integratability is also really important from a technology perspective, that you can jump from one place to another without really realizing it as a user that you're doing it. From an employee perspective, it's a single place where you can go to.
That's where the word agility comes from, and it's so synonymous with technology. Absolutely, it should be able to speak to your systems to make it work for them, and end of it, it's all about keeping it simple for the end users, and how well are we able to do it is the name of the game. All right, so we have another question. Okay, so Rajnikant wants to know that if fixing the number of times that one can reward a particular employee, I think he's going back to the discussion we had on how it can be unbiased on the technology platform. Will it stop the already rewarded people? I think, Rajnikant, the simple answer to that is, as Smriti just mentioned, it's all about agility that's built in the system, and somewhere that is where human intelligence comes into play as well. So you need to be very clear that while there are enough maker and checkers that need to be placed to ensure that it's a fair and transparent process, but at the same time it does not deter anyone from applying for more. Awesome. I think we have time for two last questions. This is from Vaibhav Patil. How does it benefit a company or employee in terms of tax benefit or any other benefit when rewarding in form of vouchers instead of cash directly into salary account? Okay, Anupama, I'm going to direct this to you. So,
absolutely.
How do vouchers work instead of cash?
See, when we talk about rewards and recognition program, it's actually not the tax that is driving our decision to do a voucher or to do cash. It really is what really impacts and what makes a meaningful difference for staff. You could have small differences here and there. For example, if you're giving, an award in kind up to a certain level, is typically non-taxable, but that difference is just so small that it is not meaningful enough for us to make our decisions on whether we will do cash or voucher or something in kind. That's definitely driven by what matters. What we do is then work backwards to make sure that our budgets are set up in such a way, or they can be tweaked in such a way that they are aligned to what we need to do in terms of the award that we're picking.
Super. Anupama, I'm going to stay with you. One of the things that we heard on the poll that we took initially was effective L&D, or development interventions that an organization is designing for the employees that really seems to matter the most to them. So can you just quickly help us understand how are you going about using L&D as an effective tool here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. And I shaped my question that way for a reason, actually, Nitya, asking where, if it was important and meaningful enough to be able to get a challenging opportunity. I think that definitely is. And, I can speak of that from personal experience as well. I've been with this organization for almost 17 years now. And most conversations that I have with people, asking what, if you were to name, let's say, top 3 or 5 things, what does it really, what really makes a difference? And almost always one of the responses that I get back is the fact that we don't necessarily put people in boxes. You don't necessarily say that, hey, you're doing HR today, so for the rest of your career in the organization, you have to do HR. Almost every 2 to 3 years, you could be doing something different. If you've proven your capability and you've sort of proven the fact that you're willing to take on a challenge and work hard at it, you can pretty much do everything. The canvas is absolutely open. So I can completely relate to that statement, by the way, that why I said it was a surprise was I didn't expect that for most people in this diverse audience that would really be the most meaningful thing. But I can completely appreciate that. You talk to people who are in early stages of their career. And if we were to ask them, hey, if you have a choice, do you want a little bit more money? Surprisingly, a lot of them will come back and say, you know what, I've got 40 years in the future to be able to make money. Give me opportunities. I want to learn. How are you going to enable me to learn something new every 6 to 9 months? If I want to build my skill, are you going to support me? Will you have the right training programs? Will you reimburse my certification? So a lot of young people actually are more focused on that than they are necessarily on a little bit of money. So completely understand, and I can relate to that completely.
Super. Thank you so much, Anupama. All right, it's on clock, and thank you so very much, audience, for those wonderful comments and active participation. It really makes it very interesting for us also to be on such a webcast with interesting thoughts coming in from the audience. Thank you once again, Smriti and Anupama. It was wonderful having you here on the session. Ladies and gentlemen, rewards and recognition very clearly has to center around your people and what they really want. You need to really put the ear to the ground and listen to what actually matters to them. Also, the leadership has to be in sync with what the employees are asking for, and that's going to be the sure recipe for success. Thank you so very much once again, audience, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. And Anupama and Smriti, what a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nitya. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Anupama.
Smriti. Bye.
Thank you. See you all.